I got a copy from Marcia Smith of the actual, there were two reports, one on the question of the probability of the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence in our galaxy or in the other places in the universe, and the issue of the UFO stuff. So she gave me copies of these things, which were then still classified, and so I got those. And I brought them and gave them to the Jesuit headquarters. I've got them. I put them in the files of the Jesuit headquarters along with this thing that I'd copied, and so that's how it happened. So it wasn't that President Carter retained me to do this, or it's.
I've just got to tell you on that point.
More complicated.
Oh God, yeah. I've got to tell you this because this is something that happened to me at the Irish UFO conference. Mike Oram was speaking. I don't know if you know of Mike Oram's story. His book is called "Does It Rain in Other Dimensions?" Now, Mike was doing a talk, and he was showing a set of symbols that he said had been channeled to him by ET. At the conference, sitting next to me was Bob Salas, and we were chatting to each other while Mike was on, and Mike showed me the etchings that you'd done on the cardboard on his computer, and they matched perfectly to what Mike Oram was showing on his screen that had been channeled by ET.
That's really far out. That's
quite amazing, isn't it?
I didn't know that. Yeah.
So there's something going on there, definitely.
Yeah. So that's how that happened.
It's actually not far off how we'd heard it. Little bits out, but you always get this between information and disinformation, so it's good to clear that up. Now, where do you see us going in the future with this? Because a lot of people here this week have been talking about the UFO contacts, the abductees, the contact they've had, but where do you think we're going from here on?
I think that this public statement issued by the Vatican, the holding of that conference, and the going to the Holy See itself, to the Vatican, at their official press room, and issuing this statement, and having not only Father Funes, Jose Gabriel Funes, who is the Jesuit director of the observatory, who chaired the committee meetings that they had, but also bringing on Professor Ibby, Christopher Ibby, who is a professor at the University of Arizona, where they have a sister observatory, the Steward Observatory. He came on. He actually stated in the same press conference at the Holy See, who was a participant in those meetings, that he said that it was not unreasonable to assume that our human family was going to be having direct contact with another extraterrestrial civilization right within a very few short years. It was how he put it. And so that it was time, and then Father Funes said that the time had therefore now arrived for us to start coming to grips with and giving very serious consideration to the profound theological and philosophical questions that are going to be raised with regard to our human place in the universe with this. And so that I viewed this as a major green light given to everybody to do this. And because I'm a great believer in Vatican II, that the church is actually the people of God. It's not the hierarchy and the cardinals and all this other thing. You know, they're not the ones that have to decide what the theological answers to these questions are. It's we have to. And so that when I came here I got invited by the International UFO Congress, which was the very next session of it, following this rather remarkable set of announcements by the Vatican, whether I, as the former 10-year chief counsel for the Jesuit Order, the largest order in the United States, the largest order in the world of the Catholic Church, if I would be willing to respond to this call on the part of the Vatican. So I did, and that's how I got here. And what I discovered is like hundreds of people, there were like 600 and more people here, and literally hundreds of people came up to me and said, don't you think we should all do this? Don't you think we should get together and establish some kind of an organization to actually reach out to other citizens kind of horizontally, not supplicating to the government of the United States to have some official disclosure or petitioning the Vatican to come up with the theological answers to these questions, but to do it ourselves, And so we began to have the meetings, and we held several meetings here during the course of the International UFO Congress. And they've asked us all to organize a thing possibly called the Open Minds Ministry, to actually reach out to people, to minister to our fellow human beings, to start preparing for this rather astonishing event that's getting ready to take place, so that people will not be traumatized by this. It will not lend any justification to the national security state to try to ask for trillions of dollars more to build new space weapons to fight these people, nor will our people just feel that because these people from this other civilization are necessarily vastly more technologically developed than we are, if they're capable of traveling here from distances beyond light years, that we won't automatically just assume that they're necessarily spiritually that much more superior to us, that we ought to somehow simply succumb to them and let them tell us how to live. That we ought to have a more measured response to this, and so that's what we're talking about doing. And that if we can do this in partnership with the Open Minds group that is going to be, they've purchased the International UFO Congress, and they're going to be having a television station, they're going to have a radio station, and they're going to have a magazine that's eventually going to come out every month, that we might be able to coordinate with them and be able to have access to their media to establish this horizontal relationship with all of our people on our planet.
Now let's just take this back to the Vatican just for a moment, because obviously this was a big announcement. On the first attempt, you didn't get into the Vatican UFO files. Have you thought about trying again now and going back for another attempt at that?
Certainly I have. No, but at the present time, I'm not the legal counsel for the Jesuit headquarters right now. And there's a new Superior General that just came in this year, 2009, actually. Nicholas, Adolfo Nicholas is the new Superior General. The first Superior General in the history of the whole 500 years since 1541. The first general, they call him the Superior General, the retired Kovenbach, who took over after Pedro Arrupe, who had a stroke and died in 1985. Kovenbach came in, a Belgian Jesuit, and was the Superior General from 1985 all the way to 2009, and he retired. And he sort of held everything in place. There was this long and complex, but there's been this major, not exactly a confrontation, but a major challenge that has been presented to the Catholic Church by the Jesuit order, trying to pressure the Jesuit order to pressure the Vatican to come up into the 21st century here, and to get off this old state of mind that they've had. Jesuits have been trying for years to make the Vatican a more progressive place. And the bottom line is that Kovenbach has now retired, and Nicholas has come in. And so there's a question now as to whether Nicholas is going to continue that activity that was undertaken by Pedro Arrupe from 1961 all the way to 1985. And if he does, then I'm going to be back in communication with them, and it may be time for me to come back and have some kind of a formal relationship with them, and see if we can get the Jesuit National Headquarters to say, basically, as we were saying back in 1977, do you think we might be able to get access to these files and help participate in disclosing what this information is?